The coronavirus pandemic is causing a lot of anxiety about the upcoming fall semester for both students and parents. Some 40% of parents in the U.S. are considering delaying college for their college-bound high school seniors. That's according to a nationally representative survey conducted by Dynata and Bryan Communications. Brian Tierney is the CEO of Bryan Communications, and he joins me now from Philadelphia. Brian, thanks for being with us. According to your research, what is the biggest concern parents have about sending their kids to college this fall?
Well, there's all the normal concerns, and then you add into it, will I have a job? You know, that's one of the things that came out. A lot of parents are just really deeply concerned about that. And then also, is it going to be safe for my daughter or my son to go to this school? And that's a gap that a lot of colleges and universities don't seem to be filling. And I know they don't have all the answers, but we're encouraging them to speak up on what you do know.
Well, how might the upcoming fall semester look different than before the pandemic? For instance, do you expect to see some colleges and universities shut down because of the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, there's this phenomenon called the 2025 cliff. So it's been talked about and written about a lot over the last 4 or 5 years that demographically, by the year 2025, there's going to be a consolidation of colleges and universities. So a lot of people think that this has accelerated that by at least 2 or 3 years because of it. And yet, on the other hand, we think of colleges in one way. It is a huge industry. It's a $600 billion business. And in states like California, Wisconsin, and even and the state of Maryland, not even Maryland, but they're the largest employers. So it's, you know, we think of colleges one way, but when you add it up, think of that. The largest employer in the state of California is higher educational institutions. And yet, you know, a lot of them are just really scraping by already. And now you have parents who are saying, if I lose my job, should I, and is it, I don't have the information. So maybe I'll just take a semester off. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit more? I mean, this pandemic is triggering this spike in unemployment and job uncertainty. How profoundly sort of disquieting is that when you have a family looking at whether or not they can afford to send their children to college? It's already such a monumental cost, and it was even before the pandemic. But now in this current climate, how is that affecting whether or not students will be going to college?
Well, you know, I think where there may have been in other times a certain amount of I'm not sure the word is embarrassment, but whatever the concern would be about the economics, and yes, we should go and start school. This semester, there's no downside to waiting. And that's one of the things that we're seeing is that parents are legitimately concerned about safety. And, you know, how will that work in a dorm, and how will that work in a classroom, and all those sorts of things. And then you add in the thought of mom or dad or parent or guardian, you know, thinking, I hope I have a job. I know 1 out of 5 people have lost a job. So it's an easy time for a parent, and easy is probably not the right word, but it is. I mean, to say, you know what, let's just pause. Let's wait and see where we are in the fall. And then we can start in January. Maybe you can take some courses at a local community college. Perhaps we could take some courses online. But for the safety, as well as, you know, to be sure that when we start the voyage, we're going to be able to complete it, let's just wait until we get more kind of clarity. And unfortunately for colleges, this is decision time right now, too. This is when they need to make these decisions.
Right. Well, for colleges that will be open, how might this upcoming fall semester actually be different?
Well, when we're talking to colleges and universities, they're talking about and understanding they're strapped for revenue, so they want to have people there. They have fixed costs and things like this. So they're talking about perhaps, you know, this group of students will go to physical classrooms Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then this other group will do Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're seeing that. And then in between, it'll be remote learning, you know, such as we're doing here. The challenge that several college presidents that I've spoken to have spoken to me about is that, you know, a lot of our professors aren't really comfortable. They're terrific professors in a classroom where they can see the students and interact, et cetera. But they're not used to dealing with cameras and laptops and things like this. So there's a concern about how do I take that professor, he or she who's been here for 25 or 30 years, and you can't just say, hey, get out there and let's go do it all virtual. They're having challenges as well.
Right, real world issues and technology issues plaguing everybody really as we try to connect with each other. You mentioned 2025, Brian, and how this pandemic is ultimately going to accelerate that process of some schools closing. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. There are too many colleges and universities in the United States, given how many 18-year-olders there are. That's one of the issues. You know, the baby boom that a lot of schools and universities opened up during and things like this or expanded during, that's kind of gone. The other aspect of one of this earlier, so you saw that from a demographic standpoint. There's been an ongoing understanding that the leavening perhaps that has been received through international students, there was already a fear that that was going to kind of trail off, and that's been dramatically accelerated. 20-some% of student revenues of higher ed institutions are from international students who are going to be afraid to come, or whose parents are afraid of they may lose their job or have lost their job too. So, you're looking at 4,000 2- and 4-year colleges in the country. And I think in ways that we can't imagine, the next 18 to 24 months are going to be an incredible minefield. And there's going to be consolidation. There's going to need to be schools saying, why don't we work with this other university? We won't offer all of these programs. We'll offer these, and then we'll complement it with this other school. You're seeing a lot of that being discussed as well. We can't be everything to everybody, kind of thing. One good advantage to schools in the northeastern United States, where there's historically a lot of colleges and universities in the northeastern United States, because this is where people lived, 100 years ago, they've been struggling. Now, moms and dads are saying, if you are going to go to school, I'd like you to be a little bit closer to home. So the student perhaps in Philadelphia who was thinking of going to Florida or North Carolina, mom and dad are saying, maybe a little nearer to home would be good. So at least we wouldn't have to fly there. We could just drive there. We're seeing a little of that as well. But I think as, from a lot of different perspectives, but one key one is as an employer, again, the largest employer in the state of California is higher education. And we're about to enter an incredibly, unfortunately, bumpy time right now in higher ed.
All right, Brian Tierney for us. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine.